Oh my god. One Piece chapter 1010 was insane. So wild that this is my first chapter review. I woke up 20 minutes ago. It's currently 4:52 in the morning and I decided I can't do anything with my day until I record this video. So let's get into it right from the jump. First we've got the cover page. No one cares about the cover pages, but I'll talk about that because I thought it was actually pretty funny. It's putting applying eye drops and it was a cover request. I like whoever put in this request for a cover because it seems quite apt, as the only way pudding would be crying. But diving right in from the first panel. It's a very intense scene, Big Mom falling from Onigashima. She is terrified, crying for Zeus to save her. Zeus is trapped in the box made by Kid. Prometheus is being held up and none of them can fly to her rescue. At this point, I was already quaking in my boots, wondering what was going to happen and thinking of the newspapers which would come out after Wano. But, we all know what this chapter was really about. So, falling to the ground, Zoro's holding up Prometheus, and while he's doing that, you can tell he's wincing in pain as Trafalgar Law is shocked that he can do anything because he thinks you wouldn't be surprised if Zoro had, and I quote, broke every bone in his body after their last attack. I don't know how Zoro is still on his feet. This guy is a mad lad, and one of his specialties has always been his feats of endurance, but let's just keep speeding through the first few pages. Kaido thinks Big Mom has become pathetic because, well, she did just, a few kids really did just push her off the edge of an island to hurtle toward the ocean. It's not surprising that he might think this. If they'd been any closer to the water, she definitely would not have made it out alive. We have Kaido helping Zoro, helping Big Prometheus get free from Zoro by attacking him. Law helps out and sends Zoro away before Law comes in for a quick attack with his injection shot. It looks like it really annoys Kaido because, well, he does say his abilities throw him off. And to defend himself, Law uses Curtain. I've been too lazy to go back and check what this does, but in this panel, it's not very clear if it has any effect or not. Especially because on the next page, we don't really see him too heavily wounded. He's just wheezing a bit. Prometheus and Napoleon manage to get free and head down to help Big Mom. Zoro's angry. Law saved him. Law thinks it isn't worth him falling to the ground. I think let's just quickly get through all of the events which happened. And at this point, Kid and Killer head off to go and deal with Big Mom, since the goal is just to separate them, so we didn't have any Hakais being brought out again. Okay, now, at this point, I want to say, I'm not sure Kid and Law are going to be keeping up with Luffy very much after this arc. Especially the way it's being built up now, with Law being given a backseat later on in the chapter, and Kid bringing Killer along. I'm not entirely sure they're going to be able to deal with Big Mom as well as Luffy's going to deal with Kaido afterwards. But I'd like to see what they can do. I feel like inherently, because of the way Big Mom fights, some of the way she just soaks up attacks and doesn't really dodge because she doesn't think of the effects. The same problems she has which put her in this scenario. Kid and Killer could be able to do something because these guys wouldn't be established as rivals in supernovas if they were not capable of doing something to show that they were in the same general league as Luffy and Zoro. Okay, they ask everyone else to leave Big Mom to them. They probably just don't want the help. I don't think they know whether or not they can handle her at all. So Prometheus saves Big Mom and then asks for a favor. They end up not flying back up to the island directly, but Kid notices something's off in the clouds. Looking at the panel, I can't quite tell what they are, but going off the sound effects, I never actually tried to read these before. It seems like the skies are rumbling. I'm probably getting this very wrong. My katakana has always been awful. And I don't actually know what these mean. I'm just going off of the sounds they make. Okay, so we have the clouds making go 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 noises, whatever those are. And on the other side, it's okay, yes, I knew it was rumbling clouds. The other ones are goro 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 goro. I'll take that to be lightning brewing, so she might be attempting some weather attack. Because, oh, this might make sense, because in the previous panel, earlier on in the same page, Prometheus is telling Big Mom that Zeus is always holding them back. So she might be making a new thundercloud, homie. That could be really interesting, seeing what could be done with that. But moving on, Kaido lets out his laugh, looking at Straw Hat on the face as he wants to finish him off, making fun of him. But you can tell it's that cliche anime protagonist look. You know, the one that annoys the villain because he's unconscious, but he's still glaring at me. But I think I like the way it's used here, though I'll admit, looking at Luffy, it's not immediately evident that that's meant to be him glaring at Kaido. He says he's going to gouge. Okay, then Kaido starts thinking of ways to hurt him and kill him. And best boy Zoro can't have any of that. Okay, so he gears up his last attack and tells Law that after this, he's done. It's up to Law. And at this point, I start thinking it might be something like that attack Kaido had dodged earlier. The first attack Kaido dodged. Which, correct me if I'm wrong down in the comments, but Zoro only used one sword. I think it was just Enma. But at this point, Zoro does something we have been waiting for a long, long time. I caught up to One Piece at the beginning of the Dressrosa arc. I've been reading it weekly since then. So in all my years of reading One Piece weekly, not once has Zoro done this. Zoro uses demonic 9-sword style. Ashura Hel Hake. You see, when I was reading this chapter, I was with my friends, and at this point in the chapter, I turned the page, and I saw Zoro using 9-sword style. You see, on the previous page, it's not something which you know is immediately going to come out, because you only see Kaido and Zoro quote Enma in Haki, just the one blade, and you see Zoro look directly at him. You think, okay, Zoro's about to flex the power of Enma. No! He's bringing out the 9-sword style again. And I was hyped the moment I saw this. He uses a move named Farce of the Dead. Just rushes Kaido, all 9 beautiful swords in hand. Kaido cries out in pain for a brief moment. He stumbles back a bit as he groans. Law is shocked. And that's it for Zoro. Zoro's last attack. Okay, and now we have Kaido. So Kaido is looking at his wound. I think this is the first time in this fight blood is actually gushing from a wound. Like, as he holds his chest and looks at it, turns to Zoro. And this next line had me with goosebumps. It can't be. You have Conqueror's Haki too! Guys, do you think Zoro has Conqueror's Haki? I've always felt like it was something he was going to get. I don't know if this is the moment where he might start using it prominently. I think this is amazing. Just inherently because he wants to be the greatest swordsman in the world, you know, the man who stands atop all of those fighters. I thought it was the kind of thing which would be fitting for him. Does he have it now? This is up to your interpretation. I'd like to believe so, because no one would know better than Kaido, because he knows what it takes to wound him. And Zoro is shocked. What the hell do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. And he falls to the ground and he says, I just put everything I had into that assault. I was hoping it'd at least be enough to knock you down. I feel like the first half of this statement is very important and Oda would not have it there for no reason. Maybe it's his way of telling us that when Zoro is going all out, he is capable of bringing out the third color of Haki. That could be it. It could just be something which he says so that we know that Zoro doesn't have any more powerful attacks than that. That wouldn't be hard to believe. And just the way that... And I also think it's important, you know, to clarify why Zoro wouldn't have used his Conqueror's Haki up to this point, because he doesn't know he has any. And Kaido turns to him, you know, in response to Zoro hoping he'd at least knock him down, and he says, it'll leave a scar. You see, the scar is emboldened here. I think this is doubly important. One, because the last scar he got was from Odin, Kozuki Odin, which is a very big deal, like from his fight against him 20 years ago, which is meant to show us that Zoro's got some very good attack power, and this is when he's been broken, beaten, bloodied, and bruised. And on top of that, it's another scar Kaido receives from Enma. I know that he has the Wado and he has Kitetsu, but from Kaido's point of view, Enma's the main thing there. And being able to leave a scar on his body, and him receiving a scar from the same blade, that's probably going to hit extra deep. Now, Zoro using Nine Sword style. No one could come up with any reason he didn't use it other than, you know, maybe he just hadn't met anyone strong enough for it to be worth using on up until this point, which makes sense because Zoro's pretty much steamrolled all of his fights till this point. Every time he got injured, it was usually because of something very dumb. And additionally, who's going to be a more fitting opponent to try out your strongest moves on than Kaido? Now, do we think he would have been capable of quite this magnitude of attack immediately after the time skip? I'm not sure. It's kind of scary to think about because Zoro didn't have a very big role in Dressrosa. His main opponent was Pika, who was more annoying than anything else. Zoro did not have was not at Whole Cake Island. He didn't have to do anything in Zou. And since then, we've come to Wano. And that's been everything since the time skip. Well, Punk Hazard and Fishman Island don't count. So he hasn't really had any major fights until he came to Wano. And nothing which really would have powered him up too much. Enma's a good sword. But then before he'd had, what was its name? Ryuma's sword. The long one. It'll come back to me. Will it come back to me? The moment it stopped being Zoro's sword, I think I started to forget about it. I'm Googling this. Okay, yes. He had that, which was not a bad sword by any means. And when we think about that, wait, where is it? Other name, Shusui, yes. Shusui was not a bad blade. It was a black blade, excellent power, great strength. I don't think that would have held him back. Enma just seems, suitable and good for pouring Haki out, and it's a pretty difficult terrain in Blade. That may have helped. Oh! Oh! Maybe that's why the focus was on Enma. Okay, so when he powers up the first blade, the only blade which Oda gives its own panel is Enma as he charges that up. And I thought this aura around his blade was just meant to be, those things they've been putting in recently, especially in the anime, just his Conqueror's Haki, his, armament Haki flowing out, but I think that this panel is showing his Conqueror's Haki. As he's putting all of his strength into it, since Enma has the tendency to draw Haki out of the user, this may be what's helping Zoro awaken it. And as he uses this technique, his Conqueror's Haki is drawn out by Enma, and that's what allows him to actually wound Kaido so deeply. And it's also why Zoro wouldn't really know what was going on. He couldn't pull his Conquerors back in from Enma if he didn't know he had it at all in the first place. I should probably have looked at this chapter more deeply before starting this review, but as I explained, I had just woken up, and it's very exciting thinking about this stuff and figuring it out while recording. Are there parts of this video I could cut out? Yes. Will I? Probably not. Because, okay, it's getting pretty long actually. Yeah, so now that I'm done with Zoro, if I hadn't stopped to look at this a couple extra times, I probably would have never figured that out. But that's pretty cool. Okay, yes, but okay, when I think about it like that, then he probably couldn't have had this power output against Doflamingo. But if the attack would have been of the same strength anyway, with or without Enma, then Zoro may have been stronger than Luffy until this point. If Enma was not actually pulling the Conqueror's Haki out of Zoro to bolster that attack, and this is something he was capable of before, he may genuinely have been the strongest guy. But now Luffy comes back after... Okay, Kaido hits Law and Zoro a couple more times. I'm skipping that page. And Kaido says, "What a pity. If you had joined me, we could have taken over the world together." And instead of any of them responding, because they're probably unconscious, at least for a few seconds, knocked out on the ground, Luffy finally returns to his feet and says, "Join you? Like any of us would ever team up with an idiot like you. The samurai are our friends." So Luffy's saying that he does not want to oppress them or force them under his rule. He wants to work together with the samurai. And in this cool, well-shaded panel, straw hat on his back, face covered in black, oh, and the cloak. The cloak is very nice, he says. "I'm definitely gonna send you flying." And this is the moment you start seeing all of the flashback panels, things are about to go down. He starts flashing back to when Hyogoro, that's his name, was teaching him how to coat his fists in Haki. And he comes to a revelation. "All the attacks I tried, they're still not it." Another flashback panel. "That first time I took a blow from your club, I finally get what happened. Conqueror's Haki. You can use it to coach yourself, right?" Kaido lets out booming laughter, which resounds through the heavens. In this panel, Kaido seems almost happy that Luffy figures this out. Because someone has reached the level where they can understand what's going on, but then he still thinks Luffy isn't actually capable of it. He says it can only be done by a handful of powerful individuals and that he's escaped death for the last time. Okay. Who are these powerful individuals? I'd assume Admirals, maybe? Could be. Definitely the Fleet Admiral, definitely all of the Yonko. It explains why they always have this constant bubble which is protecting them and they seem invulnerable at all times. This immediately explained what was going on when Whitebeard and Roger's attacks clashed. That was something which we hadn't really figured out yet. We'd pretty much assumed it was just the pressure of their attacks being so great that their blades could not actually meet, but it was the aura of their Conqueror's Hakis surrounding their blades. I think this is actually the first time it's being confirmed that Roger had Conqueror's Haki. I don't think it's been outright stated until this point has shown us that. And as Kaido rushes behind to attack Luffy, he blocks the Konobo without touching it. And gets in position, Kaido shocked and in awe, to punch him very hard in the gut. Without touching his gut. Okay, so Luffy gets in a couple very good attacks on Kaido. I think under normal circumstances, Kaido would have been able to dodge these or intercept them and would have been more prepared. It's just that he was shocked because he didn't expect this from Luffy, and he's been tanking a lot of attacks because that's just how he is. He's not used to people being able to damage him. Law is shocked seeing this, saying, "How? He's not even making contact." And in one of the best Luffy scenes we've gotten in a long time, he thanks them for covering him and says, "Leave the rest to me. Tell everyone I've got this." I like the little bubble, okay, not bubble, the words in the corner of the screen, corner of the page, the bottom of the panel. Mano a mano. Man on one, this 1v1 fight is about to go down. Luffy is going to take on Kaido. I don't know how to feel about that. Other than hyped, of course. Okay, so at the beginning of this arc, no one could feasibly see Luffy 1v1ing a Yonko. I was among those people. But I think this could work very well. Oda has done a very good job of building us up to this point, them slowly getting stronger, him being able to use what he's been learning. And by having the trick be Conqueror's Haki instead of armament, I think that's a much better reason for him being able to have such a drastic increase in power, because Conquerors isn't something just anyone can learn. Ryuo, which is the armament which he was learning from Hyogoro, would have been nice, but it wouldn't have explained him getting all the way up to Kaido's level. Given Kaido's been beaten by a lot of people, he fought all of the scabbards and 5 of the supernovas and has been taking a lot of attacks. But Luffy has also been ragged on quite a bit. So in terms of damage, I'd probably say Kaido's healthier than Luffy is. This fight will be a good one. Earlier I said it might have meant Zoro was the strongest up until this point if it wasn't necessarily Enma drawing his power out, but from this point on, after these last few pages where Luffy can actively control that power, I would definitely put him as the strongest on the crew, naturally, as things should be. Don't ask me about Zoro versus Luffy fights. Because that's not quite relevant. I just meant against other opponents, naturally. But, this chapter was loaded. Well, that's been it for this week, guys. That's my One Piece chapter 1010 review. I feel like my voice might have changed over the course of the video as I've woken up slightly, but my nose feels a bit off. I passed out in the cold without any clothes at all. I don't know what time I slept, and that's probably why I was up at 4:30. Thanks for sticking around to those of you who did, which is probably no one. With good reason. None of my subscribers really watch One Piece, and none of my friends are caught up, so I can't even make them watch it, but Thanks for sticking around. This has been Samuel607. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for future content if you wish to be notified. Hit the notifications bell if you want to know when all of my videos come out. And support your boy on Patreon so I can have gas money. Well, that's been it for today, folks. This has been Samuel607 logging out.